Big Buck Registries, Big Buck Podcast, episode number 26. Big Buck Registry is a virtual museum of hunting stories. We preserve a piece of Americana by interviewing and recording hunters about their hunts and experiences from across the country. And who knows, maybe we'll learn a thing or two along the way that'll help us take our hunt to the next level.
Hi, this is Boyd Barnett with Moultrie Products and the Moultrie Total Game Management Podcast. You're listening to my second favorite podcast of all time, the Big Buck Registries Big Buck Podcast.
Hey, everybody, this is Jay Scott, your host of the Big Buck Registries Big Buck Podcast, and I'm here with my good friend and field correspondent, Dusty Phillips. Dusty, what's happening?
I tell you, Jay, it's so cold here. I seen a deer earlier, fart a snowflake.
Oh, that can only come out of your mouth. There's only one person that's going to say that, and that's you.
That's cold.
That's cold, man.
When the deer are farting snowflakes, it's cold. How's everything in New Hampshire?
It's equally as cold. Yep, we're farting snowflakes, buddy.
Good deal. It's they're calling for some warmer weather coming. It's going to be a little bit of relief to get rid of some of the snow, but I was hoping for a white Christmas.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited about a white Christmas. I think that's the way Christmas should be, and can't say we've had that many of them in the last three years or so. But you know what? Right now, it's been very cold. As of right now, it's kind of warmed up today for the first time, but we're talking like -9, -10. And that's, if you think about that, that's 42 degrees below freezing.
That's cold. That's snowflake cold.
It's ridiculous. So
it's enjoyable just to get out and go to work in that kind of weather.
Right. I don't even want to get out of the house at that point. But, the deer moving around, I can see their tracks in my backyard.
Yeah, they're definitely trying to find and scurry around for some food. That's for sure.
Yep. Dusty, we have a very special guest today.
Tell me about her.
The wild world of Carrie Z.
I hear she's the best moose caller this side of the Mississippi River.
She is. There's no question. In fact, I think we're going to play it for all of our listeners on the air.
You're going to play it?
I'm going to play it, man.
Oh, man. She's going to be pumped up.
I might embarrass her a little bit.
But, that's the part of it. If you do a moose call and it's live, she does a podcast.
Yes.
Episode 51 is where I found it.
Episode 51, Wild World of Carrie Z. So if you're on iTunes, so just type in the Wild World of Carrie Z. And
they learn how to do a moose call, and you're going to play it. No kidding? You're not kidding me, right?
Nope. I've got it queued up. God. Episode number 51.
Wow. She's going to be pumped up about that.
She will be. Carrie Z, she's a podcaster. She's a fellow podcaster from Wisconsin. And we thought it was a good idea to have her on the show because she understands both of our worlds. She understands podcasting. She understands hunting. She understands moose calling.
Moose calling for sure.
So let's get her on.
Let's do it.
Carrie, welcome to the Big Buck Registries Big Buck Podcast.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on. This is very exciting.
This have you been a guest on other shows so far?
I have been on a few.
All right, very cool. And what shows have you been on?
Well, I have had the privilege of being on a few podcasts: the Wilderness Podcast, Foremost Hunting, Ripple Outdoors. Fishing and outdoor radio. Folks in Wisconsin or the Midwest will know the name Dan Small from Outdoor Wisconsin, and he has a radio show, and I fill in for him quite a few times.
Cool.
That's really about it for podcasts.
Okay, gotcha. Where are you, Carrie?
I am in southeastern Wisconsin.
Okay.
The great white north up here these days.
And I can hear it in your accent.
I don't have an accent. I'm from the Midwest.
Of course. Dusty, can you hear a bit of Wisconsin in Carrie's voice?
No, I hear New Hampshire in yours.
Interesting. No, I know I have an accent of some sort, but I can't hear it. Carrie can't hear hers, and I bet you can't hear yours either, Dusty.
I don't have one. You're just different. That's all.
Exactly. Us Midwesterners, we don't have one.
We rock. I mean, we're going to beat you up, Jay. Tonight's the night we beat Jay Scott up.
Me up.
Right.
Right.
That's the way it goes.
Unless you're from the UP or something, then you duck like a Youper.
Yeah. We're not beating up the Youpers though.
The Yoopers. All right. You'll have to fill me in later on what that means.
Oh, no.
Some insider code you two are sharing. I'm not liking where this is going already.
Definitely not from the Midwest.
All right. So you're from Wisconsin, land of the Green Bay Packers and cheese.
Yes. And
The
beer.
cheeseheads.
And beer.
And Pope and Young and Boone and Crockett, by the way.
Is that right? That's where they're from.
Oh, well, no, we just are the leading state in all the record books for whitetails.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. By a lot. Like, if you look at the numbers, it's a huge margin.
I think Kentucky's about to catch you.
Oh, they better not. Those stinkers.
Did you know that, Dusty, that Wisconsin was so high up in the record books?
I didn't know Kentucky fellers were stinkers. Come on now. I didn't really. That state's so far away that I don't even recognize it.
Right.
Nope.
Interesting.
Yep.
No kidding. So you grew up in Wisconsin.
Yes.
And who taught you how to hunt? Who taught you to introduce you to the outside, or was it just part of your natural culture?
Well, my dad was always a big hunter. Nobody else in my family really hunted too much. My mom went along a couple of times and my uncles sometimes, but growing up, my dad really wanted a boy and he ended up with 4 girls, me being the oldest. So I kind of fell into that natural, first son spot, I guess.
Gotcha. Okay.
He took me to the range. I always joke that my first time out hunting, I was 6 days old. My dad wanted to go duck hunting and my mom left me home alone with him. And he put me in a backpack and went duck hunting.
I did that to my daughter once.
That's terrible. My mom was not happy.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been there. I understand how your dad feels.
Yeah, you got the baby. What the heck? It doesn't mean you can't go hunting.
This is how extreme huntress stuff comes about, Jay.
It really is. So you grew up with this. Your dad was your big influence and
Yes.
taught you about the outdoors.
He was a big whitetail gun hunter.
Gotcha. And you developed your skill set, bow hunting and gun hunting and throughout the years. Did you hunt like throughout your childhood, through high school as well, or was it just not cool, or was it cool back then?
Oh yeah, it was totally cool. Everybody hunted. Well, not everybody, but I grew up in the heart of Milwaukee, so you had a lot of city folk, but you had a lot of hunters too. It was not uncommon on opening weekend to see a lot of blaze orange driving around after dark.
Gotcha. Okay. And where do you live now?
I live in a little town called Slinger. Ha, go figure.
Slinger.
Yeah.
Slinger, Wisconsin.
Slinger, Wisconsin.
That's cool. How far is it from Milwaukee?
It's a suburb. It's a suburb of Milwaukee. I actually work in Milwaukee, so.
Okay. Now, I'm always fascinated, like this suburban hunting type atmosphere. Do you have that there, or is it kind of, you have the city? I've never been to Milwaukee. Mm-hmm. So if you get outside the city, does it instantly turn into
farmland?
Farmland. It does.
And
okay.
We have, millions of acres of public hunting land too. So within 5 minutes of me, I can be at 2 different parcels of public hunting land that are pretty substantial and have good bucks.
I'm jealous.
That's pretty.
Yeah, we have a ton, just a ridiculous amount of really good public land. And then, I don't know when they introduced it, but now the farmers are getting on this natural forested land where they'll lease out their property to public hunting and then they get a tax break for it. So we have a lot of that going on too. And then we have a huge crop damage management program where these farmers will get a ton of tags and you can go out throughout the year and shoot does or whatever because they're just destroying the croplands. And that's for deer, turkey, goose, bear.
Really? And that's throughout the year?
I think because, and I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure you can in the summer, right before actual hunting season starts. You can't in the spring, but I'm pretty sure you can in the summer. There are some provisions.
Right. It's just interesting how there are animal problems in different spots in the country. And that sounds like you've got so many of them that they can become an issue.
Yeah, we have a humongous deer herd.
Gotcha.
Do you know the population by chance?
I want to say we have 1 million deer.
Holy smokes.
Wow.
Yeah, we have, I think it was 600,000 deer licenses were sold just this year alone.
Wow.
Do you guys know what the deer population in New Hampshire is?
4,400.
Almost. 75,000. Yeah, 75,000 is what we have as a population in New Hampshire. And the kill every year is somewhere between 7,000 and 9,000.
That don't seem like very many.
That's it. So when you say I've got 1 million deer in my state, your state's much bigger than New Hampshire, obviously. But that's a lot of deer.
Yeah.
That's a tremendous amount of deer. So what do you do now? Do you do the podcast full time, or do you have a full-time job doing something else?
I work in IT.
Gotcha.
Yep, I'm a documentation analyst. I create manuals and SOPs for our IT department, which really, I like words. I'm a blogger,
Right.
Kind of worked out really well.
It's convenient. Yeah. So I can see the transition from being a hunting person into blogging, and it's what you do naturally anyway. So that's cool.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Dusty, you want to take us through a couple hunts with Carrie?
Yeah, Carrie, we'd like to ask you just to tell us briefly, a detailed brief about some of your most memorable hunts. Tell us, how it all started, and from the time you woke up to the time the harvest or you come in, weather conditions, the terrain that you have to travel to get to your hunting zones. Just walk us through a couple hunts, if you would.
Sure. To be quite frank, most of my hunts, pretty much all of my hunts are pretty much the same. I hunt public land almost exclusively. This year I actually paid for a lease, which was a disaster, but that's a whole other story.
Well, with a million deer, I think that you should be able to shoot them anywhere there.
Man, I'm telling you what. And I thought that this whole lease thing is going to be great. And I'm going to see bigger monster buck. Yeah, right. Whatever. Just a long story. Anyway, so I almost exclusively hunt public land. It's always cold. So, and I always have to travel pretty far. I have some public land that's close to me and everything, but the places that I really prefer to hunt are out near the Wisconsin River, more central and southern of the state. Just
river bottom bucks.
Exactly. They're awesome.
Right.
And, actually, now that I think about it, almost every one of my deer hunts pretty much start the same. Motel room, you get up, you're heading out, 4:30 in the morning, 5 a.m. to get out there. I only just started bow hunting a couple years ago. And I've actually never taken anything with my bow. I've passed on a couple of decent sized bucks, but since I started podcasting and really getting involved in the outdoor industry, I really got involved with the QDMA.
Right.
So pardon?
Tell me what a quality buck is for you guys out there. Scoreable size.
Well, by age, 160 and above.
Really? That's a nice deer. That's a nice deer for anybody to harvest. If you're able to harvest a 160 or better year after year, and be able to pass, there's that many deer that you're able to pass.
I've passed on a couple in the 120s, and I did pass on 130, 140 maybe. I have some pictures of them, and that's how we were able to roughly score them.
Right.
But
right.
I don't know. With my first bow kill, I just wanted to be just that awesome kick-ass Pope and Young buck, from Wisconsin or whatever. And because I take deer every year, except for this year, of course, with my gun for the meat. So, but, I don't know. My hunts they're not really boring. They're just kind of the same old, same old. You go out to public land, you try to avoid all the other people,
Right. Is there when you're going out to this public land, how far back in do you have to travel from, let's say where you park?
It varies. There are some parcels that I know that I've seen deer within 100 yards of the parking areas. And I killed a doe a couple years ago, and it was 22 yards from my truck.
Wow.
Literally. And she was, literally.
That was a rough drag.
I know. It was awesome. But that's because I see all the other guys and they're heading in about 100, 150 yards. And I'm like, all right, well, this place isn't that big. It's kind of in a horseshoe shape. And I'm just going to hang out here. I've seen them here. There's pine trees right over here. But there's been other parcels where I've had to go in 200, 300, 400 yards just to kind of avoid the people. And I know they're pushing those bucks back there. Especially there's one of my favorite parcels is called Baxter's Hollow, and it's a state natural area near Baraboo. And it used to be where you would have to put in for a lottery to get a hunting tag to hunt there. And then they opened it up to public, it was just chaos that first opening morning that the public could hunt there too.
It's just one of them things where it's like a kid in the candy store. They got to go and check it out. They got to check their area out. It's crazy, ain't it?
It was ridiculous. And it was every 50 yards, you saw 5 people sitting. You're walking down the path and you look to the right and there's some guy. And then you look to the right and there's another guy. And then you look to the left and there's a guy. So you really had to go pretty far in.
That sounds scary.
Well, it can be.
Right. Yeah.
It can be as a single lone female, and you've got all these guys all around, or just, these yahoos who don't pay attention. And
Jay, you ever seen a yahoo out in the woods?
Oh, I'm very familiar with the yahoo. Yes.
Not too many Yahoos here in Ohio. How do you tell if they're a Yahoo? Is there like a?
Oh, you can tell. You can.
There's a tag on the back, or how do you determine a Yahoo?
They're those guys where you set up your blind and you see them up on the ridge, and they clearly see your 144 square inches of blaze orange on your blind, and yet they still, for some reason, take the path to come in and say, have you seen anything?
Mm-hmm. That's a Yahoo.
No, not anymore. And I should probably just go home now. Thanks so much.
Hey, how you doing? Do you see any
here? Right? Yeah. Are you serious, dude?
I got to say that I don't run into too many Yahoos here in Ohio. For one, it's a lot of private ground, so that kind of eliminates that for the most part. So you're walking in. What's the terrain like there? Tell us what kind of timber that you're hunting in. Is it flat grounds? Is it hilly, mountainsides? What do you get into in Wisconsin as far as when you're going in for your hunts?
It depends again, because in the northern part of Wisconsin, it's all big woods and it's pretty flat for the most part. But then you get out. Our border is the Mississippi River, so you have tons of bluffs. Like Buffalo County is nothing but bluffs along the river. Where I hunt, it's pretty rolling. There's not, I don't know, they seem like mountains to me, but that's because I live at, 300 square feet above sea level.
Right.
I know it's funny because I'll post something on Facebook and somebody from Utah is like, oh my God, you're such a Sally Pants. I'm like, I totally am. Because they're like, we have mountains.
So it's kind of rolling, is it pastures or is it big mature timber?
No, it's mature timber.
Okay. What kind of timber are we talking about? Do you know what kind of trees that are actually in there?
Oaks, a lot of elms, birch, maples, aspen. I know we have up north. For the most part, birch and oak. You kind of hunting rolling hills with some heavy, big timber. That's, sit up on the ridges.
Right. Trying to watch the valleys, see where they're traveling at. I know the river bottoms are phenomenal here in Ohio. I really enjoy. I actually got a place that I hunt on a river bottom, and it's phenomenal. For one, you can see a long distance because it seems like where the river bottoms are, the undergrowth is not there.
I would agree with that for sure.
Is it the same out there that the undergrowth is not around the trees like it is in a normal woods?
Yes.
Right, very cool.
Yeah, because the river will wash away a lot of the
Gets
soil.
rid of. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's real cool. That's what I like about it. It's real open but big, mature timber, and we like to hunt them here because the big nasty bucks like to run the riverbank. I mean, there have been some really studs killed around here on a riverbank.
Yeah, for sure. Those ones that live out on the islands, and you can see them swimming back and forth. I mean, of course you'll see them swimming back and forth when it's not huntable season, but
right. What caliber of weapon do you use during? I'm assuming you guys got a rifle season out there.
Yes, and they actually just opened it up where all counties are now rifle. It used to be around Madison and around Milwaukee, those counties. You could only use shotgun, and now they opened it up pretty much statewide to rifle because, I don't know, they did some survey or something where people were actually getting injured more with with shotgun shots than rifles. So it's actually safer, I guess, to shoot a rifle. I don't know how that works, but.
Right. What's your caliber of choice?
I use a 6.5 by 55 Swedish Mauser.
Really?
And I have an SKS too that I use sometimes, but she's a little twitchy, so. She is
twitchy.
She's a little twitchy.
Tell us about her.
She loves to jam up on me at inopportune times.
That's the worst, Dana.
Yes. I had her overhauled a couple of times now, and whatever that gas chamber is in there, it just hates me. So my 6.5 is a little more reliable.
Have you missed any big ones because of it?
I have. Yes, I have. The first time I took her out, and I got my gun from, my dad gave me the SKS, and I never cleaned it. I assumed he'd cleaned it, which was stupid on my part, but it sat down in the basement for over a year. And then the first opening weekend, go to take a shot on a decent 8-point, and she just jammed very unprettily.
Did it fire for you at first?
No, it didn't at all. Everything just got all gummed up. And so then I'm there, and then I try to pull the bolt back, and it sort of opens, and then it gets stuck, and I'm sitting there and trying to open it, banging out with a rock, and it's just ridiculous. And then of course there's no deer near me anymore.
Yeah, that's a guaranteed run off there. That's the worst. That always happens for me. You squeeze one shot off, and it seems like the next one goes tink.
I know, right?
Oh no! And then at that point, you're trying to reload a shell, and most time I'm shooting a pump shotgun. As soon as you chamber that, every deer in 400 yards is gone
for sure.
So tell us about the deer that you've harvested out there.
I've never taken a buck. I've shot at 3 and 2 was with the SKS and 2 times they jammed. And the 3rd time, I'm not really sure exactly what happened. I must have bumped the scope or something. It was like way off because I'm a damn good shot. And it was like the deer just like laughed at me and ran away.
I'm calling buck fever.
Maybe it could have been, but
no matter, it seems like no matter how good of shot you are, that buck fever will get you.
And it's very possible. I'm pretty steady, but I don't know. I've shot a ton of does. I mean, tons of does, but I only had those 3 opportunities at a buck, so which is hilarious considering the amount of bucks that we have in Wisconsin. But like I said, I hunt public land. And I don't really sit still a lot, so I get ants in the pants. So I want to see what's over the next ridge. Maybe there's a bigger deer over there. So
Gotcha.
that gets the deer moving.
Yeah, unfortunately, probably away from me.
As Grant Wood says, there's no better cure for finding a deer than just a good case of sit still.
I know. I know.
It's tough sometimes.
It is, especially when it's like, it's 10 degrees out and you're like, man, there ain't no deer moving and I should be moving. Otherwise I'm going to freeze to death.
Right.
So let's just go walk around.
Do you normally hunt by yourself?
Yeah. My husband does not hunt. It never has, which is fine. He supports me wholeheartedly in all of my endeavors and is very, very supportive. So I don't push him. My dad, like I said, I grew up hunting with him, but I joined the Navy and kind of learned how to hunt. I just kind of went out on my own, small game, mostly in Virginia. And then when I came back, my parents had gotten divorced and he had gotten remarried and he was kind of wrapped up in the new family. But I'm quite capable of going out by myself. I mean,
right. You just go do it.
You just go sit out there.
I can't stress that enough. Everybody asks, well, how you shoot nice deer, and I've been fortunate, that I've harvested some nice bucks and, just lucky, I should say. Right place, right time, right area. That's all that boils down to. But, everybody asks all the time. I get it all the time. How do you do it? What do you do different? I just tell them, it's seat time. I go out there and I spend time. I watch. I learn from the nature, the wildlife. The deer will tell you exactly what they're going to do day in and day out if you watch them.
Absolutely.
Jay, what do you got for Carrie?
All right, Carrie, let's get into your podcast a little bit.
Okay.
The name of your show is The Wild World of Carrie Z.
Yes.
Z is short for Zylka. Did I say?
Yes. Very good.
Thank you. I think I deserve an applause, Dusty, but that's all right. Thank you.
Yes.
All right. What made you decide to take your hunting endeavors and put them on an internet radio show?
It is all Anil Roney and Anthony Dixon's fault. I'll tell you right now. I got my outdoor start, I guess, as a blogger for a Western hunting podcast website called Bowcast. And like I said, I blogged for them for a couple of years, and then the company kind of went through a restructuring and I ended up producing some of their podcasts. So I kind of learned the back end that way. Mm-hmm. And then it just wasn't a good fit anymore. They were just way too Western hunting after, Anil left the show. Then it was just really focused on the full moon production DVDs and et cetera. Okay. And I was like, okay, it's time to move on, So then I kind of was like sitting around like, well, what am I going to do? And I still kept my own personal blog going and which was very active. And the next kind of progression, the next natural progression was to start my own podcast.
Right.
It was just another way, really, honestly, it's just another way to get my words out there. Because a lot of my podcasts are based on the material that I've written already for the month or that week. Or articles that I've written that have spawned ideas for upcoming shows and subject matter that I'm like, hey, I'd like to learn more about this, expanding on the research that I've already done for this article. Let's have a guest on that can really just flesh out that subject matter.
Right. And I can understand that. That's very much what we feel we're doing here. So we try to get an idea and then go get that expert, bring them to the show. So we can, and I'm trying to learn too. I mean, the real reason why I started a podcast myself was because I wanted to learn from people like Dusty and all the other experts out there that I know are better hunters than I am, but I also like to live vicariously sometimes if I can't actually be there. And it's very interesting to me.
It's about the chase too. There's a chase to this. When you're trying to get more information, you chase it down. It's almost like hunting. It's the same scenario.
Right.
Me and Jay get on a subject no different than you, Carrie, and we chase it down till we find the source.
Yep.
That answers our question.
Yep. All right. So Dusty had asked you a little bit earlier about what was your most memorable hunt. And we talked about a couple of those. Take us through some of your more memorable interviews.
Let's see. My most memorable one, hands down, so embarrassing, but it's true, is episode 51, actually, How to Call on a Moose. Alex Guthrow, guy up in Canada. I had put out a call out there that said, anybody interested in being a guest on the show, what subjects can you come on and impart knowledge to my listeners, you know? And he was like, well, I can teach you how to call in a moose. And I'm like, I've never even seen a moose, so that would be a pretty good trick. And over the phone, he taught me how to sound like a rutting female moose.
I think we got to hear this.
Hysterical.
We got to hear this rutting female moose on our podcast.
It is. I can't do it now. No way.
Oh, we've got to hear it. Jay, we got to hear it.
Well, it's episode 51. Learn how to call in a moose. I'm sure I can cue that up for us.
Yeah, go ahead and take whatever parts out of it you need to.
I think we need to have a live session of the moose call.
I don't think I could.
Carrie Z, show us how it's done.
No.
Come on, Carrie. It's the Big Buck Podcast.
It's not happening.
Okay. Folks, we're moose calling. Carrie Z, live.
Yeah, right.
All right. So if you're not going to do it for us, describe how you do it.
Oh, man. Because it's like really complicated. You have to cover, you cover your nostril holes.
Right. You
curl your tongue. You make this R sound.
Let's hear it.
No, I can't do it. I honestly can't do it because I can't remember exactly how. I'm even like, I'm standing here. I'm like, okay, you put your thumbs here and your forefinger there. I think it's terrible.
So it's almost like calling in a Sasquatch.
Totally.
Right.
Ask my cat, because she immediately ran up here and gave me the funniest look. What are you doing?
Right.
Making those noises.
Have you guys seen that show, Finding Sasquatch?
Yes.
Or Finding Bigfoot? It's absolutely hilarious. And this is what they do. What you just described is exactly the call that they do when they go to try to find Bigfoot.
Right. But I was at Walmart and thought I saw Bigfoot one time.
Oh, I'm pretty sure I've seen at least his cousin at Walmart. Oh, yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
But yeah, that would be probably my top
That's
favorite
your top one. Okay. Tell us a little bit about, I think it's Kip Adams.
Yeah.
He's a biologist, right?
Mm-hmm. For the QDMA.
Yeah. He's a fascinating individual.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the things you learned from Kip along the way?
You know what? The QDMA in general, I went to their Deer Steward 1 course this last May, and I thought I knew a lot about deer. I know nothing, apparently, because the amount of information they imparted in that weekend was ridiculous. And I was really impressed with both Kip Adams and Lindsay Thomas. They're just fantastic guys, and they love deer, and they love talking about deer. And they are willing to come on my show every quarter to talk about deer, which is fabulous. But just the amount of, like, the most recent one that we did was the phases of the rut. And I always thought that there were actually 4 phases: pre-rut, the chasing phase, rut, and post-rut. And he was like, no, the chasing phase was really just a phase made up by writers, to be honest with you. It's all just pre-rut. And I was like, oh, well, now I feel kind of dumb, but okay. Because I genuinely thought there was this 4th phase. And just the amount of information that he imparts just boggles my mind. The rut stuff was, of course, very timely. And I think another really big takeaway from a previous interview was when people say you have to cull the herd because they have bad genetics, because, they have like one antler that's growing incorrectly. And he is like, it has nothing to do with genetics. It's because that particular deer hurt his back left leg if his his right antler is growing funny.
So Kip is, he's a very knowledgeable individual. Some of the things that, just listening to your show, and we have a friend, Grant Woods, who is also a deer biologist. I love talking to deer biologists. I think
Me too.
They just have great information. One of the things
and they're super happy to impart it.
Yeah.
Like, they will just talk forever, and it's great.
they love to share their knowledge, which is great.
Yes.
It's very useful knowledge.
Yes. Although I have to say that there are some deer biologists who would love to share their knowledge, but they are as dry as toast.
Yes.
But boy, they're smart. And so you have to kind of take, I'm not even, it's almost comical to have them on the radio. It might not even come across very well on the show, but the content would be fantastic. So one of the things that I learned from Kip is, and I thought was kind of interesting, it was about the weight of a doe is approximately 70 pounds is when they're become breeding does, basically.
Sure.
Right?
Yes.
And that depending upon what place you live in the country, will determine whether or not that doe actually gets to that weight that season. So in other words, if there's plenty of feed for them, you'll have some of these younger does coming into the right estrus because their weight gets to that level later in the season, and you can still kind of follow them around to find your bucks.
Sure.
But in other places of the country where the food sources aren't quite as plentiful, like New Hampshire, maybe, you're not going to get to that state. You're not going to, it's just going to go through the rut and that's it. You're not going to have that late rut because some of these younger deer are coming into estrus.
Right.
I thought that was fascinating.
That is cool.
So talking to these deer biologists helped me understand all these other things that are going on. And he had a lot to say about the moon, deer phases and things like that. What else did you learn from Kip?
How they see was really fascinating. The color spectrum, that for the love of God, don't wear blue jeans out in the woods because you stand out like a sore thumb in their eyes.
Blue jeans.
Yes. They're partially colorblind.
Right.
And blue, it's like a beacon in the dark. And I was like, that kind of makes sense now a few times that I went out in blue jeans and saw nothing. You know?
So no blue.
No blue jeans.
What about green?
I don't remember. I just know that he said blue was the color to never, ever, ever wear.
Okay.
And that they don't see, I think it's yellow or orange, that it just looks muddy.
That's exactly what Grant Wood said. He said they can't see the color orange particularly well.
Right.
So blaze orange to us sticks out like a sore thumb, but to a deer, it's just kind of blah,
looks
blah.
gray.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's kind of a background.
Yes.
Dusty, what questions do you have for Carrie about some of her shows?
Can you tell us one of your most memorable moments podcasting? What comes to mind when you think about your most memorable moment?
God, that's, I guess, my most memorable moment, other than learning how to call in a moose and just sounding like a crazy person for all the world to hear, was probably, well, it would either be the Halloween episode or the 50th episode where my podcast got hijacked by these dudes. It was really, really kind of mean of them. They really hijacked my podcast and just ran with it. And then they talked about beards of all things, which I hate. I hate beards. And they just talked about beards the entire time.
So you're not a Red Sox fan or a Duck Dynasty fan? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, I do. I just don't. I prefer my husband to be clean shaven. Thank you kindly.
Gotcha. Okay. Fair enough. So,
that was probably one of the funnest episodes ever because it was just a hoot.
They stole your podcast.
Man, they hijacked the feed and everything. They kicked me off my own podcast, and then they just ran with it. And my friend Brittany and I, we tried to take it back, and they just like strong-armed us. It was ridiculous.
How does that happen?
I don't know. They're internet ninjas.
Oh.
Internet ninja. Wow.
So these are some of your friends that you know from work or something like that, and they do play.
No, they're just these Twitter dudes.
Twitter dudes. All right, and they were gonna do this whether you liked it or not.
Pretty much, man. They came up with their own outline and everything. It was hilarious.
That's crazy.
So what do you do about that? What's the end result?
Pretty messed up podcast, completely unrelated to anything hunting, unless you have a beard, of course.
Right. Okay. So they just took your podcast, they put it out on the net in their own version.
It did, exactly.
Wow. Okay, I got you.
You should go listen to it. You'll see. Episode 50.
I've listened to the beginning parts of it, and I'm like, what is
I've been
going on here?
I've been actually listening.
I know.
I've been listening to you doing this moose call on 51 here. I've almost got it dialed in where I can play it for us here.
It's so bad.
Do you do feedback on your shows, Carrie? What's some of your most interesting feedback that come from your podcast?
You know, I don't get a lot except for hate mail. Occasionally people will be like, "Hey, good job. I really like the fact that you're a girl out there and you're out there hunting with enough confidence to do it by yourself." And
being female separates you from a lot of podcasts, and that's very cool, And Jay will agree with me on this, that that you're stepping up and taking on things that most females won't dig into.
Well, I think maybe it is because my dad did want a boy, and I was treated very much like a boy growing up. That I have a lot of self-confidence in myself. I was not a great kid. I joined the Navy at 17. My mom had to get waivers to congressmen because it was either join the Navy or work at Burger King eventually. And I think they really instilled a lot of self-worth that I had been lacking and a lot of self-confidence that I had been lacking. Mm-hmm. They literally gave me the kick in the ass that my mom couldn't because I was bigger than her.
It helped you.
It did. And once I got out and, my dad and I weren't that close anymore. And I was like, well, just because he doesn't want to go hunting with me doesn't mean I don't get to anymore. And it was the same thing with my husband. Like, just because we got married and he doesn't hunt doesn't mean I don't get to. So it was either go out by myself or never go out. Well, I really like being in the woods. I don't even have to kill anything. I just like hunting and being out there. And, I don't necessarily trust a lot of these guys on the internet, Facebook and whatnot. Most of them have nefarious ideas,
Right.
So it's just go out and do it. And I think a lot of women just lack the self-confidence. And if I can, in any way, shape, or form, encourage them to get out there. I don't want to promote women because I don't want to exclude any guys that might want to go hunting either. I don't want to be that girl. I just want to encourage people to get outdoors, especially women who just because, oh my God. So let me just sidebar here. So
you sidebar all you want. Yeah, go ahead.
The Milwaukee Journal Sentinel Sports Show here in Milwaukee. It's like the granddaddy of all sports shows. Mm-hmm. They came up with this new idea. They want to do a ladies' lodge. And they had approached me in January. The show was in March. They approached me in January and were like, would you be interested in having a booth in this little area? We're going to do some, women, female-friendly kind of booths just to tackle that market, which is obviously the fastest growing demographic. We all know that. And I was like, yeah, sure. Well, it was pretty underwhelming, I should say, because the area we were supposed to have got rented out to some other one. So anyway, so I'm standing there at my booth and it's not like I have anything to sell. I just have my podcast that I'm promoting.
Right.
I cannot tell you how many women stopped at the booth and were like, do you do ladies events? My husband, I love to fish, but he doesn't want to take me fishing because he says I'm bad luck, or I'm really, and I'm like, that's terrible. And, these women who are like, I would love to try archery or bow hunting, but my husband won't take me. Or he says he doesn't want to spend the money on me on a bow because he thinks that I won't like it or something. And all these women are like, do you do ladies events? And I'm like, I really don't, but I guess maybe I should.
Right. And there's a start right there.
Seriously. And all I could do was just encourage them. And I'm like, there's other, becoming an outdoor woman programs and there's other groups and stuff. And, just get out there on Facebook. I have met so many women who genuinely have husbands that don't hunt. I am not alone. It's a miracle. Right. I thought I was alone because around here, it's either, oh, my dad took me out or my boyfriend takes me out or my husband takes me out. And I'm like, really? I took some people out by myself. Right. And they're like, where there's lots of other women in the country that have the same exact problem.
Right.
Well, not problem, but situation.
Yeah. And it's totally understandable where they're coming from, that's something that you guys have in common right off the bat.
Totally. It totally
is. Something they enjoy, but their spouse doesn't. And that's okay. There's ladies out there that we're encouraging you to get out and try it.
Right. Especially, fishing, whatever it is. I mean, there was this one woman, she about broke my heart. Older gal, she came up and she was like, I was wondering if you did any women's fishing events. And I'm like, I really don't, but I could probably put you in contact with some other ladies if you want. And she was like, my husband passed away 2 months ago. He was my fishing partner. He was my buddy. He was my fishing partner for years and years and years. And now without him, I don't know how to do it by myself and I don't want to go by myself. And I was like, aw.
Yeah, that's touching.
And I'm like, okay, call this one lady because I know she wants to go fishing too,
Right. What on your podcast, what's your dream podcast? Who's your dream guest?
I already did it. That was Jody and Brandon Carter from Real Shot Outdoors. And
that's crazy because actually we're getting in touch with them as, right now. So
they're fabulous.
That's very cool.
I don't watch a lot of hunting shows. Well, I really don't watch any. I watch like 2. I watch The Backwoods Life and I watch their show because I don't want to pay the extra money for hunting channels on cable because I won't get my money's worth out of it.
Right.
And they put their episodes on their website, so you don't actually have to have the Sportsman's Channel to actually watch their shows. Yeah. And
that's cool.
They're just down to earth, like normal people. And they went to New Zealand, and I have been wanting to have somebody on to talk about red stag hunting in New Zealand, and it just happened to work out really well. And they were like my dream interviews because I really enjoy their show. I really like them as personally as people. And they, of course, went to shoot red stag, which is like my dream hunt.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a dream hunt right there.
Yeah.
No question.
For sure.
I want red stag in Argentina. Woohoo! Woo!
Yeah. All right. Carrie, I have queued up the moose call.
Oh, no.
Okay.
God.
So I want to play it for us.
Okay.
It's great.
Okay.
Did you? All right. Let me ask you this before you do this.
Yeah.
Did you get any like where they were talking how to do it? That's probably the best part.
I am 23 minutes and 54 seconds into the episode 51.
You're right in the good zone.
I'm in the zone.
You are in the zone.
Okay.
It's a good thing this isn't video chat because you'd see how red in the face I am right now.
All right,
That's what makes it fun.
Let's play this up and see what we get.
Okay. I'll moose in and be like, you will not believe the sounds I heard.
You're
Okay.
agitated. You're trying to get that big bully.
Okay, we're going to give it a shot.
That's the squash.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh my-
And when you drop,
Oh my God.
That was so good.
It gets
That was-
better.
It was great.
Should I keep going?
No,
No.
no, for the love of God.
All right. Everybody who's listening to our show, it's episode 51, Carrie Z, Wild Word of Carrie Z. So you have to go to the Moose episode.
Oh my God.
I'm just going through some of your other episodes here. And let's see. I wanted to talk about just a couple of them that you had decided to do here.
Sure.
Tell us about deer camp. Do you actually go to deer camp?
Not exactly.
Okay.
My deer camp is usually, well, like opening weekend of the rifle season is usually just my dad and me. Like that's our deer camp.
That is deer camp. That's a deer
Yeah,
camp.
we get a motel, room usually.
Sure.
And this last year, my husband actually went along, which was hilarious because my dad's kind of an odd duck. And my husband was like, I've never seen the side of your dad before. I'm like, yeah, he gets a little crazy around hunting time.
It brings the best of us.
Ouch.
Yes. That's putting it mildly.
It brings out the person that it's all you. There's nothing hiding. There's nothing that you're keeping yourself from. It's all you. When you're hunting, it's the person that you should be all the time.
Yep.
Carrie, I have not listened to every show of yours. I've listened to quite a few. But sometimes I think as the interviewer, sometimes it's better not to until after because you set expectations about your thoughts about the show. So, but to read the headline is sometimes more interesting in the beginning before I know what it's all about. So here's one. Women, chainsaws, spears, and sturgeon.
Yes.
What is that all about?
This year I think was the first one for the inaugural Women on Winnebago event. I work really closely with the Fond du Lac Area Visitors Bureau, and they wanted to host an event called Women on Winnebago, where they invited a bunch of women media folk out for the sturgeon spearing season here in Wisconsin.
A sturgeon spearing season. Okay.
We have.
Sounds like a party.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's so much fun. You just don't even know. Oh my God. So the Friday before the season even opens, there's this thing called a sturgeon stampede, and there's lots of drinking, and you go out and you use the chainsaws to cut the big holes so you can put the dark houses over the holes so you can spear them. You cut these big 6x6, I should send you the YouTube video. It's pretty funny. You're out with these really super long, chainsaws to cut the holes. And then you push the ice down underneath, and then you can pull your big dark house over that hole because sturgeon they're pretty smart, and they'll silhouette you in a heartbeat. So they're big ice shanties really, and they're just usually painted black on the inside so that they can't see your outline. It's a lot of fun. You guys should come this year. I think that would be hilarious.
I'm into ice fishing. We do a lot of that in New Hampshire. We have a big party on the ice on Lake Winnipesaukee in February, and it's a nice derby. It's really just an ice drinking event. It's a big party. It's a giant party on ice, and it's a lot of fun. It's not a lot of fish have been caught, but a lot of beers have been drunk. So
that's kind of how it is here. Except we don't fish for them; we spear them.
Right.
So. Yeah, we got to drive a couple good hours to get to a lake big enough to do some decent fishing on, as far as big lake.
Gotcha. Okay, here's another headline or topic.
Okay.
Episode 19, Girls Gone Wild. All right, that's gonna catch any man's attention.
This may be a whole different podcast episode. We may need to R-rated.
Tell us about this one.
No, it was in October of 2012.
Yes.
I invited two gals from out of state, a gal from Florida who is actually one of my staff writers now, Faye Walker, and this gal named Felissa from Utah to come and go whitetail hunting up here. And it was like the craziest craziest week ever. Like for me, everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Like my fletching fell off my arrows twice. My, my tree stand broke. Like it was just insane. We weren't seeing anything. It was unseasonably warm. So these poor girls, they spend all this money in airfare. They come out. We rented a house. We're hunting public land. We're not seeing anything except for at night. And the last day of the hunt, actually, Thalissa from Utah, who'd never even seen a whitetail in person, shot a nice 8-pointer. So that was pretty cool.
Wow.
But it was such a fun time. And those girls, I would hunt with them anytime.
That's cool.
So
I'm going to go listen to this episode. Did you do a live mic while you're in the field and stuff like that?
We didn't. At the time, I was using a snowball microphone.
Okay, yep.
So it wasn't very portable. Now I have my Tascam, which I'm doing a lot more like in the field, kind of on the spot interviews. But at the time I didn't. And then I was going to have them on the show, but the schedules didn't work out. So I ended up just talking about it by myself.
Gotcha. All right. Episode 18.
Okay.
Do you know, I don't know my shows by the number yet, but this one is the tirty point buck, or in this case, 27.
Yep. I talked about the new 27-point state record whitetail that was killed. I think that one was because we've had a couple of state records in the last couple of years that just keep trumping each other. And I think that one was actually shot in Fond du Lac County, about 45 minutes away from me.
That's crazy.
It was huge.
Interesting.
I can't remember what the score was. It's like
27 points.
Yeah.
That's a whitetail there.
Yep.
That's huge. What other shows are more interesting than some others? Which ones do you like the best?
You mean just like in general?
Yeah.
Sometimes, well, it's hard because sometimes I think the ones that I do myself, like I think it's episode 30 something, 35 maybe. Let me look here. Oh yeah, deer species and subspecies.
Yes.
I really enjoyed doing that one because we have a ridiculous amount of whitetail species in America, and there's just all these teeny tiny little like subspecies. Like in Florida, there's like 5 of them in Florida and there's like 5 of them in like South Carolina. And that was very awesome to me because I had to do a lot of the hardcore research, and it took me a couple of weeks to actually get because I wanted to have my facts correct, of course.
Right.
And that one was just fun because I love whitetail, and it was interesting, to read about all these different species and their environments and where they live and their habits and the hunting regulations that go along with them, these island bucks so sometimes those are my favorite, but then I'll have like Gary Cornum on and we'll talk like hunting arrow tech. And I just get all gooey over that because I just love the more technical stuff. The more technical it is, the happier I am. Because if you come on my show and I don't learn anything, I'm going to be a little irritated.
Right. What do you think that comes from? Is that from your childhood? Is that from being in IT, or is that's just who you are?
I think that's just who I am. I've always kind of been nerdy and techie.
Gotcha.
I mean, I'm a total gadget whore. I mean, you just don't even understand how excited I got on Saturday over the new 3D televisions. I was like, we need a 70-incher. And my husband's like, you're ridiculous. And I'm like, look at this. You look at the detail. And he's like, you're ridiculous. So I don't know. It's just,
you like detail. You're a detail person.
And I'm not one of those people who will like take apart a toaster just for the fun of it. I'm not that way at all.
Right.
I would be the one to go out to GE and look up the manual to see how you take it apart rather than just doing it.
Right.
And that might come because I am so wordy. I love writing my articles. I love the research involved with the prep work that I put into my shows. My outlines are ridiculous, and any of my guests will tell you, like, they're really detailed. This is specifically what I'm going to ask, and this is sometimes what I'd really like you to talk about.
Right.
But
one other question I had, and this kind of comes from something you had said on your show with Kip recently.
Sure.
You had mentioned that the feeding of deer is not something that you practice because, and bait stations are common across the country. But in your particular area, your county butts up against a county that has chronic wasting disease. And that's why you choose not to bait deer, because it can be transferred through saliva, and other liquid elements of the deer.
yes.
Tell us a little bit about the chronic wasting disease in your area. It's something that I'm not really familiar with other than what I can read, because we don't have it in New Hampshire. Dusty, do you have it in Ohio?
No, we sure do not.
You do not. All right. Tell us about what this problem is all about.
All right. Well, chronic wasting disease actually originated here in Wisconsin, in Rashholt, Wisconsin. It is it's an infection It's an infection caused by something called its prions.
Okay.
And
Like
I won't go. Yeah, I won't go into the.
It's like a small virus, from what I
Yes,
understand.
exactly. Yes. Most of the cases, it occurs in adult animals, so you don't ever see like fawns with CWDs. But it's very progressive. It's always fatal. There's no deer that gets tested for CWD that lives. And it's a disease that there's no real visible signs other than like you might see a really skinny deer, because weight loss is really prevalent with CWD. And sometimes like you'll see behavioral changes. They'll be real tired, or they just look off, okay. Or like, and it's really, really prevalent here in Wisconsin. Like I said, it originated with a farmer in Rushholt, Wisconsin. And even though all those deer were euthanized, they had contact with wild deer, and it is spread, like you said, through saliva, nose touching. And that's why baiting is so illegal here, because, deer, they wander, especially during the rut. Their home ranges expand. And I don't want to be the one to put out, a mineral lick and then have some healthy deer come in contact with an infected deer. And then it spreads into my county and it keeps spreading that way. It's just, it's horrible. Yeah. There's nothing we can do about it except for try to stop the spread. You can, I hunt in the CWD zones, and there is a test that you can do. It's like $10 or something like that. And none of my deer have ever tested positive, but there's still always that lingering in the back of my head, like my cousin Ron stopped hunting because he has 2 small kids, and he's like, I just don't want to take the chance of feeding tainted meat to my sons, which I totally understand. I totally understand.
As far as we know, and as far as Kip said, is that it's not transferable from species to species, meaning that deer can't give it to humans. But still, there's that mental thing about eating deer or meat that is diseased.
Right. And it doesn't go species to species, but it does, like cervids, like elk and like deer, mule, deer, moose, they could all give it to each other.
Right.
But yeah, right. We can't get it, and they can't give it to like wolves or something, which is kind of a bummer, but that's another story.
Because you have wolves in Wisconsin, right?
Yes. And we had our first wolf hunt in 2012.
That's crazy. So now we don't have wolves in New Hampshire. Dusty, you have wolves in Ohio?
No, they can stay out of here too.
Right. Exactly. We have a ton of coyotes, but wolves, although I have seen wolves in the woods, I swear, but they say they're not here. Sure.
Yeah.
Right. Dusty, what other questions do you have for Carrie?
Carrie, where do you see your podcast going in 10 years?
Well, for the love of God, I hope I'm retired by then. No, I'm just kidding. No, I don't know. I don't have any aspirations to have my own TV show or anything like that. I do this, to be totally honest with you, I do a lot of this because I'm really selfish, and I want these people on my show so I can learn from them. And if somebody else listens to the show and learns, hey, bonus. But maybe a vidcast eventually.
Okay.
Would be kind of cool. I'm kind of delving a little bit into video, just a little bit. Like, at SHOT Show, we're going to do a bunch of video there. And so I don't know. I hope in 10 years I am, at episode 1043 or whatever.
Right. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Yep. Carrie, this has been great. It's been fun learning about you. And I know you weren't so pumped up about being on the show to talk about yourself.
I totally was. I was kidding.
All right, cool. Tell our listeners how they can reach out to you. Where can they find your podcast? Where can they find you on the internet, Twitter, and all the other stuff?
Sure. Well, the easiest way is to go to my website, and it's thewildworldofcarriez.com, or the shortened version is wwocz.net. You can find me on Facebook, facebook.com/wildworldofcarriez. I'm on Twitter under Carrie Zylka, Google Plus, LinkedIn. You could just Google my name, and you can pretty much come up with all the social networks that I'm involved in. I'm pretty much everywhere. This has been a lot of fun. I've very much enjoyed talking to you guys. You guys ask questions that nobody else has asked yet.
That's what makes us unique.
That's it. We like to dig in.
We do.
Yeah. We like to play moose sounds on the air.
Oh my God.
That was fabulous.
It was fabulous.
So
you did a great
funny.
job.
Thank you so much.
Well, I would, we'd love to have you back again, Carrie, sometime. If you're up for it.
Of course. Anytime.
Very cool.
We want to make sure that when we do, you've got some other kind of call you've mastered.
I'll work on that. I'll get somebody to teach me how to do coyote calls, like injured rabbit calls or something.
Yes.
Ooh, very nice. Very cool. Any parting thoughts, Carrie?
Not much. I appreciate the fact that you guys invited me on. I really, sometimes I think that other podcast hosts make the best guests, because it's fun, because hunting industry, I know there's a lot of me. What can I get? And no, I don't want to share the spotlight with anybody. But realistically, there's not that many podcasts out there. And your listeners are probably just as interested in my podcast and vice versa. And you know what? There's an awful lot of hours in the week to be filled up. It's not like we're vying for prime time slots.
Right.
And you guys are great. I listen to your show. I very much enjoy your show, and I appreciate what you're doing for the hunting community.
Wow. Well, thank you very much. And
thank you.
We're trying. We're doing our best, and
you're doing a good job.
I have subscribed to your podcast, and I will continue to listen to each and every one.
I've been slacking.
Well, it happens.
It's hunting time.
I found that by bringing Dusty on, I push him, he pushes me, and we kind of get it all done on a weekly basis. If I did do that, I'm not sure it would turn out on a weekly basis at all. Yeah.
That is the nice thing about having a host. Like with me, I'm like, maybe I'll get it done next week. Whatever.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe you ought to think about it. It's definitely a good additive. I've enjoyed it. It's been a great road. Me and Jay getting together. It's been awesome.
I have thought about it in the past, just because sometimes it is lonely. Like on the shows that I really, I don't have a guest, so it's just me talking, and I don't want to bore people. Maybe someday I'll bring on a host or somebody semi-regularly.
Well, I got to tell you, Dusty definitely makes my show not be lonely at all. Cause he brightens it up. It's pretty good. Not that I have a choice anymore. It's just the way it's going to work out.
Right. Carrie, let me know anytime. I'd love to join you sometime.
Sure, for sure.
Yeah, and I'll do the same, actually.
Yeah.
Do a little co-host, and I think Dusty is a better color man. No question about it.
You guys are awesome together. You guys have good chemistry, and that's rare to find. Really rare.
It's like two pair of gloves. It just seems to fit the hands perfect. It couldn't be any better.
That's great.
Yep. Awesome, Carrie. I'll let you go,
right.
But thank you very much again.
Yeah, thank you guys.
We'll definitely. Well, this is your show. It's all about you.
God.
So
good talking with you, Carrie. Thank you.
Same here. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Right, take care.
Bye.
Bye. Still there, Dusty?
Yes, sir.
Cool. Well, that was awesome, man.
It was a great podcast. Carrie's a great female doing great things for females, encouraging that a female, if you're out there by yourself, go get in the woods, don't hold yourself back because you're by yourself.
Yeah. She's a great role model. She's got great spunk. She's got a great show.
Oh, how about the moose calling? She's a great moose caller.
Great moose caller. But I like what she's doing. I like that she's bringing in interesting guests to learn more about the things that she thinks her listeners will learn about, and stuff that she wants to learn about.
Yeah. And I liked her style because of the fact that she wants to learn something. And if she doesn't learn something, she feels like she didn't do enough research.
Right.
And that, informational. That's very important.
Yep. I would love to see you as a guest on her show.
I would be there. Carrie, take me up on that. Get me on your show, and we're going to have some fun. There could be a possibility it could be cold enough for a deer to be farting snowflakes again on her show.
You're not going to just jump ship her, are you?
Hey, well, I'm not a ship jumper, but I do like to see new waters and come back.
All right. Because the one and only Dusty Phillips is not replaceable.
You're right there. I got to say that I'm one of a kind, and I won't leave you, Jay. The Big Buck Registry is my home.
They threw away the mold when they made you.
They did, and that's what makes me unique.
That is true. You're a very unique individual. I will give you that.
I like to have a good time, and, I hope that you all enjoy listening to me. I cut up a little bit, and that's just who I am, Well,
that's why we invited you on in the very first place. It's because you are who you are, and you don't make any excuses for it, and that's what we love about it. So.
Yeah, there ain't nothing sugar-coated here, I'll tell you that.
Perfect. And that's what we do here on the Big Buck Registry. We don't sugarcoat it. We go right to the truths. That's what we want to do.
I fit right in.
Yes, you do. So, Dusty, tell everybody how they can reach you.
Facebook / let's do this again. Facebook.com/Chubby Tines Outdoors.
Gotcha. And how's your website doing?
I've been busy at work, snow and ice control. Yeah, it's not going as far as I'd like it to be right now.
Yep.
But due time, we'll be saying ChubbyTinesOutdoors.com.
Gotcha.
But
Okay.
not quite finished yet, but it's getting there.
Okay. If you'd like to reach us on the Big Buck Registry, it's BigBuckRegistry.com. It's Facebook.com /Big Buck Registry. Twitter is Big Buck Registry. you can give us a call at 724-613-2825 and leave us some feedback. You can tell us about a hunt you were on. You can let us know if you liked the show, what you didn't like about the show. We'd like to hear that too. If there are other topics you'd like us to cover, we'd like to hear about that as well. I think that's a wrap, Dusty. Anything else you want to cover?
You know, I'm going to do a shout out to my old man. He picked up the Big Buck Registry, Big Buck podcast, and we got a lifer.
Awesome.
He's out there. He's listening. You know, he's going back playing all of our podcasts, and, you know, shout out to you, Dad.
Shout out to Dusty's dad. Absolutely.
Yeah, Chuck.
Shout out to Chuck. All right. So I'm Jay Scott.
And I'm Dusty Phillips.
This is the Big Buck Registry's Big Buck podcast. See you next week.
Can't wait.